What's up, everyone? Welcome to my corner of the internet. I'm your host, Ryan Kramer, and this is Crossover Commerce, presented by PingPong Payments, the leading global payments provider helping sellers keep more of their hard-earned money. What's up, everyone? Ryan Kramer with Crossover Commerce. Thanks for joining on episode, I want to say 27 already. It's crazy how many episodes we've already been through this year. But welcome. Happy Friday to everyone who's here in the United States. You did it. You made it. Congratulations. It's another Friday in the holiday season. We're super excited to have you listening on both LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you have questions, you know the drill. Go ahead and comment in the stream below. We'll be able to see those questions and answer in real time. We'll be able to give you insight and knowledge and perspective, which is what this show is all about for today's topic, which is really cool. I talked with James yesterday before I bring him on. We talked a little bit yesterday, just kind of going through things a little bit about the company. We didn't share too much about what we wanted to share today, but Recom Brands, I know the buzzword is acquiring and exiting your Amazon FBA business. I want to say nowadays you have companies like Thrasio, you have companies like Perch who are just getting valuations like crazy. And there's companies like Recom Brands who are also on the uprise. So we're going to talk about exiting FBA businesses and acquiring FBA businesses and growing those and taking those to the next level. So with me today is the COO of Recom Brands, and that's Jeff Stein. Or James Stein. Why did I say Jeff? James, I'm sorry about that. Welcome.
Hi, Ron. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. Well, like I kind of said in the intro, it's kind of the buzzword in the industry right now, right? Acquiring Amazon businesses. So before we kind of dive in, I know everyone's super excited to hear you talk. Let's kind of go into who you are, like how you got there, where you are today. I know your background is super intriguing. We were talking about a little bit about it yesterday. So for those of you who haven't heard about you or know who Recom Brands is, kind of kick us off for us today.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I actually started the company with Ryan and my business partner about 3 years ago. I had just come off of another startup that I'd founded. I just left, and Ryan had just left his gig at Glencore, which is the world's largest commodities trading firm. And it was a pretty cool serendipitous way we met. We both started an Amazon business separately to one another. We were both really attracted to the rich data that allows you to place educated bets. And we were connected through a mutual friend, and we also coincidentally were living a block apart from one another in Manhattan. So we met, it was kind of like kindred spirits. We decided to join forces, and we were introduced to the world of retail arbitrage, actually, to start. And that was over 3 years ago. And what we did is I'd actually just finished building out like a last mile logistics business of basically picking and delivering products out of a retail type environment. And we walked into a Nike outlet store and we scanned some product barcodes, and we could see that there was this big spread between what you could buy the product for in store and resell on Amazon. And we started calculating, well, there's 200 Nike outlet stores around the country, there's 1,000 Marshall stores around the country. So like this is a very scalable model that we both, and Ryan's a trader, right? So it led well to his trading background, led well to my sort of distribution and logistics background. So we raised some money pretty quickly, and we bought three 2008 Toyota Sienna minivans, ripped out the seats, hired a bunch of people, taught them how to sort of analyze the data, and off they went around to Marshalls and Nike outlet stores. And we did that for about 8 months, and then we started getting introduced to wholesale suppliers of branded product, and we still have that business today. It was really a wonderful and lucky success. I think we still have that business. It's like an 8-figure reselling business. But there were sort of limits to the business. I actually still do think that the business is scalable. It's just very, it's just limited in terms of building real enterprise value in the business, unless you sort of have exclusive relationships with wholesale, with established brands. So we had actually come across the Thrasio guys about 2 years ago. We loved what they were doing. We thought it was a brilliant model, and so we started dipping our toe in the water. And another coincidental thing is we basically met our third partner, Jeremy Bell, who has done billions of dollars of private equity and M&A transactions. He had just moved to the States with his wife, and so she had an amazing opportunity working for Nike, and he was figuring out what he wanted to do in the States. We were like, hey, we love this model of buying businesses. We've got the Amazon operating experience. You've got the deal experience. Let's join forces. And that's it. So we bought our first business about 18 months ago. And we will end this year with hopefully about 12 brands in our portfolio. And it's been a lot of fun. And we're just really excited to be in the ecosystem. I mean, there's so much excitement going on in this place. And it's a fantastic opportunity, we think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like I said, it's crazy the notoriety that some of these businesses like that you guys are building out right now are getting, especially with like sellers and other businesses and service providers around you, because you guys you have to make I think I mentioned it yesterday. It's almost like placing bets on the stock market. You have to actually like know when to invest and know that it's going to continue to rise and provide payoffs for you as a company. So why don't you walk us through? I know everyone's super kind of excited on two assets I think we can go down as one as an Amazon seller and a brand owner. When would you talk about from that perspective when you need to start talking about like maybe exit strategy or like selling a business? When's a good time to maybe start thinking about that? And then on the other side, we can dive into like what you guys look for and to see where there's a natural marrying of relationships.
Well, I mean, look, selling a business is a personal decision, right? So, and so for us personally, I can tell you about how we think about Recom. We love business. We love the game of business. We love waking up every day and operating businesses. So we're not thinking about when we're going to sell. All we're thinking about is how do we build a long-term sustainable company, and we want to have an exit to build business, right? So that if we do want to sell it one day, we can. But I think the most important thing is, are you enjoying what you're doing every day? And I think second to that is, are you growing and getting better? Because I think that happiness equals progress kind of thing. So as a seller, if you're still waking up and you're fired up every day to keep growing, adding new SKUs, optimizing your PPC, and you're enjoying it, and you've got a fantastic quality product, and you've built yourself a nice little moat that you're not that you don't feel like you're going to be under pressure from competitors or inordinate, like keep operating your business. But I think if you've got other interests that you want to exit, free up some liquidity, invest into something else or whatever, it's really just a personal decision.
Right. So when you got what you as a company, what are you guys looking for in terms of an Amazon, maybe I call it a partnership, but you're going to be acquiring this process or acquiring a brand from a seller. How do you go about, maybe start us from the beginning? What are you guys looking for? How do you find these people? And then what do you guys as a company look for in terms of like growth potential and opportunity?
So, I mean, it all starts with a high quality product and also some track record, and the track record indicates the high quality product. If you don't have a good quality product, there's really nothing to talk about. There's nothing that our expertise can do other than restarting a product ground up if the product isn't good, right? Which is not what we're looking to do. Product launch and development is super hard, which is why we're leaving that to the entrepreneurs for the most part. The product development entrepreneurs.
Right.
But it's a high quality product that has got at minimum 1 year of consistent track record, probably closer to 2, so we can see the seasonality, and also COVID is sort of skewing things a little bit or whatever. So we want to see what the business looks like when the world was normal, and it's the classic things that I think all of our aggregator competitors are looking for, which is a good review moat. Ideally, we want something that's in the top sort of 3 ranks of organic search. So we're buying that organic traffic and organic search, and we're buying that high quality product. And then the other thing I would say is a high quality supply chain. I mean, we've already had some instances where we acquired a product and like the product was high quality, but the supplier was unreliable or whatever it is. So those 3 things are the idea, are what we're looking for ideally.
Gotcha. So your job as a company when acquiring a business is to take it to the next level. What's going to separate you guys as a entity or company, and what can you guys do apart from what other sellers can do like themselves? Does that make sense?
I think this is a really important question. So like, Ryan, my partner, likes to say, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I love, and it's actually really good timing for this question, because DoorDash just went public 2 years ago. And I remember, because the previous business I started was a sort of similar type of model to that. It was more like an Instacart type model. And I remember, that was it was also a very hot space, about 10 years ago, with all the last mile delivery guys. And there was Postmate and all these guys. And you can see that DoorDash has just smoked them, right? They all had the exact same business model. So, cliches become cliches for a reason, because they're true. It's all about execution. So, frankly, what I think differentiates us from most of the guys in the space, and I don't know, and I obviously don't know a lot of them, so I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but we've actually been an Amazon operator for 3 years. Right. A lot of the guys we've noticed, and girls coming into the space, are really looking at this model as a financial arbitrage play. They're looking at the multiples that these businesses are trading at, and they're going, well, look, if I can just go out and acquire 100 brands at a 3.5 multiple or 2.5 multiple, or whatever, and I just put them together, I can just exit to private equity, and I'm going to get a multiple expansion because I would have acquired these things, right? But we don't look at it this way. These are businesses, oftentimes very complex businesses, and specifically on Amazon. So, we just like we look for a proven track record in the businesses that we're acquiring. A lot of the ways these deals are structured are with earnout arrangements, right? So you pay the seller an upfront amount, and then you allow them to participate in the upside of the business. In the upside of the business. So if the seller is selling to someone who's actually got a track record, they can be a little bit more sure that they're going to get that upside versus someone who's basically never run an Amazon business before.
Interesting. So when you guys have that upside model, obviously in focus, walk us through when you're connecting with I guess more often than not, are people approaching you guys as a company to say like, hey, I want to talk about exiting my business, or are you guys approaching and using your tools and, knowledge to kind of find those people and find those businesses and reach out to them and say like, hey, we think this is a great opportunity for us. We'd love to see if you're potentially interested, almost like a merger and acquisition, right? And that's how
So again, and I think what the other thing that makes us, maybe not somewhat unique, or at least we think is going to make us successful, is our M&A department is just absolute rock stars. So we've got the Amazon experience, but we've also got probably, amongst the senior guys, they've got 40 years of merger and acquisitions experience, done billions of dollars of deals. They understand all the intricacies of sourcing deals, as well as maintaining good relationships with brokers. And so the answer to your question is, we are, our presence online and stuff is all going to get revamped. We're going to be announcing a whole bunch of stuff recently, but we're going to be doing a whole bunch of organic reach out towards sellers, trying to provide valuable content and stuff so they can come to us and start building a relationship of trust with us, and start coming to us as a first point of call if they're looking to sell their business, but also just developing and maintaining fantastic relationships with the brokers. There's some great guys out there in the industry. And, from a broker's perspective, they want to understand that, like, if they're going to be going through this process with a potential acquirer, like, that these guys can be relied upon, that they do what they say they're going to do. When they go to LOI, they actually close. And so it's everything right? However we can find good quality businesses, we're pursuing those strategies.
So how if I'm an Amazon seller and we're talking about you buying my business, am I just completely cut out after, I walk away, I literally have no more acquiring brand recognition. I can't use any of the brands that I built out. Everything is transferred over to you, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And there's no partnership model. Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's partnership models out there in investments.
Absolutely. Look, the simplest way of doing it is to acquire the business outright, right? Like that. It's just simple. It's straightforward and clean. But we have multiple deals in our pipeline at the moment where the seller wants to stay on board and wants to retain a piece of the business or whatever, right? And we're totally open to that, especially because we can learn from the entrepreneur themselves, right? So we're, as I said, we've got a great M&A department, and we're totally open to creative structures. But for the most part, we're acquiring the businesses outright.
Sure. So when you do that, is that how does one get paid out? Is that like just a cash, like it's literally like here's a check and that and goes from there, or is it like just a contract structure? Okay,
pretty
so
much.
basically you can walk away with like,
again,
oh crap,
it's like anything, it's a negotiation. Every deal is different, and it also again comes down to the personal desires of the seller, right? If the seller's main solve is to get cash in their pocket today, we'll work towards that, right? If we've developed a great relationship with them and they have trust in us in terms of implementing best practices post acquisition, and they want to ride that wave with us, then there can be a deferral payment and earn out arrangements, etc. So gotcha. It's a negotiation. It's like all humans are unique, all deals are unique, all businesses are unique. So.
No, that's really cool. And for everyone who's joining us again, who's kind of coming a little bit later, I know obviously it's still a little bit early in the morning for West Coast people, but this is Crossover Commerce. I'm the host, Ryan Kramer, with PingPong Payments. We have James Stein from Recom Brands. We're actually talking about FBA acquisitions and how do you go about exiting strategies and acquiring businesses. It's a really hot topic. And if you have questions, go ahead and ask those in the comments and we will answer those live. Or if you have them after the fact, we will make sure that the Recom team will get notified of it and answer those questions as well. Again, this lives on YouTube. This lives on our Facebook channel, on our LinkedIn. So definitely check those out as well. My question, James, kind of my next kind of thought process behind this is, when I'm an Amazon seller, what's the minimum requirement, like maybe like the minimum threshold that you guys will look at in terms of like business or revenue that you're generating from? Is it more seasonal or is it more like consistent sales? Is there a threshold that they have to meet in order to meet your requirements?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, we probably won't look at anything that's below $100,000 in EBITDA, seller discretion, profit, however you arrive at that, that number. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. We're not interested in looking at reselling businesses. We have one of our own, and unless there's some kind of unique angle there. And yeah, I mean, it's really just what I said earlier. We're just looking for high quality assets.
All right. So what's the one thing that's kind of getting you guys going every single day? Like, what's the motivation factor of waking you guys up and getting you excited about growing this portfolio to something that, it's what you said, 10 brands this year, could be 50 to 100 next year. What's kind of that exciting factor for you as a COO and co-founder?
I think business is the funnest game in the world, man. It's and again, it's personal, right? Like a lot of people can't stand business. For me personally, I think I'm a good generalist, right? So I'm not like 99th percentile, I don't think, in just about anything, but I'm like pretty good across like most functions in business. And so nothing's ever boring. I'm always working on, throughout the different structures, the departments of the company. I get to sort of pull on different skill sets and creativity that's very exciting. And then again, like I alluded to it earlier, progress is happiness. So growing and getting better for me is not about it's not an ego thing. So I can pound my chest and say we've built the biggest company in the industry. Although we're very motivated to do that.
That's not a bad thing. That's a good side effect, right?
No, but it's because that's what makes the day-to-day enjoyable and fun. And oh my God, and I'm a huge fan of Ray Dalio. I think we were talking about this yesterday when we connected. I'm a huge fan of Ray Dalio. I don't know if it's his core values. It's certainly one of his principles is meaningful work and meaningful relationships, right? So right. It is the coolest thing in the world being able to hire and recruit a whole bunch of people who are a lot smarter than me, right? And exactly. To work with just inspiring guys and girls who I can learn from and build this sustainable thing that we all work on together. So yeah.
What is the hardest part about being in a pandemic kind of era? I know you guys like recently kicked off, I wouldn't say 2 years.
I didn't hear you. Era?
I'm sorry. So when about during like this time frame, like it's in a pandemic kind of era, what's the hardest thing for you guys as a company? Because you're so young still, what's the hardest thing on a day-to-day basis to kind of overcome?
Man, the remote starting, essentially doing a startup in the middle of a pandemic where you can't get into the same room and collaborate. Like, look, I think there's no question the commercial real estate in this around the world is going to contract structurally dramatically, right? But human beings are social animals, meaningful work, meaningful relationships, right? And we're highly collaborative, and you just miss out on so much not being in the same room as someone. So we cannot wait for COVID to be over so we can get into an office together, whiteboard things out, scream and shout about all the things that we want to do the same, differently, and just work together. So yeah, it's been really tough, especially with onboarding new employees, right? Like it would be so great if we could just be in the same room together. It's like, hey, come over to my screen, let me show you this. Like, I'm working on this right now. Like, this is actually important for you to know. It's like, now if I'm working on something, it's like, oh, I have to think, oh, let me call someone on Slack or on Zoom. Oh, they might not be at their computer, and it's just like, it just makes it very, very challenging for cohesion now.
The one thing I'll talk about personally is like, the one thing that's difficult for me is when they reach out to me via Slack, I can just like ignore it and they won't know any different. Like, that's not a bad thing, not that I am doing that. For everyone that in my company watching, I'm not ignoring you on purpose. But it's an actual reality, right? Like, that's a mindset, and it's a defeating mindset, is I'm not important, or we can't collaborate at the same time, like you had said. And then my time's not valuable. Your time is being stretched somewhere else. And it's hard to like know if we're on the same page or not, or, if we're super stressed out. I think like reading people.
I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's some crazy number that like 40% of communication is nonverbal, and a huge amount of it is body language. So even though we're talking, we can see each other's facial expressions, which is nice, but like I've got a 2D image of you, right? So I don't see your whole face expression, and I'm sure not seeing your body language, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough, but listen, I mean, we were lucky enough to be in an industry that has benefited tremendously from COVID. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it, right? Like, there are far more people out there who've had a far harder time than us, and our heart goes out to them. I mean, it's been a super, super challenging time for a hell of a lot of the world's population. So we're very grateful.
Absolutely. What is what's the innovation like for something in this space? Is it more just like research tools that you guys are excited about, or what's the one thing that this is where I'm coming from. Maybe I'll back up and I'll kind of like paint my picture. So finding Amazon information, like who's in charge of a storefront or any kind of like business in general, is very hard. And Amazon, the information that Amazon reveals to people is somewhat like difficult. Obviously, you don't know who the person is or that storefront is as an FBA seller. How do you go about finding maybe like who the person is or who that business entity is? Is it just software tools, or is it you reach out through contact information, or like what's the way to go about that? From a
deal perspective,
or like a research perspective? Yeah, because if you're trying to meet up with these people and you're like, hey, you guys have a great product, we'd love to kind of work together or see if you guys are interested. What's that outbound perspective look like from a company who's trying to acquire businesses?
So it's what I was
saying. If it's a trade secret, don't tell me.
No, not at all. I mean, look, you can see like again, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So it's like it's the simple, not easy principle, right? Like, for example, like losing weight, eat less, move more. It's simple, not easy, right? Like, same thing here. So it's like, so in terms of our outbound, it's great relationships with brokers, right, who bring us deals, and then we get introduced to a seller, and then in terms of the research stuff, I mean, all of the brilliant tools out there, Helium 10, Jungle Scout, and also our Amazon experience, we know what the nuances with these tools, what they do well is, what they don't do well, and so we're able to at this point we can get shown a deal, and within about 30 minutes, we can determine whether we want to submit an LOI and dig in deeper. So if how the process works, and this will be useful for sellers who may not understand the process. So the initial, if in the instance of sort of an organic deal that comes to us direct from the seller, they'll share their ASINs with us. So we'll be able to then evaluate it without getting any sort of access to their seller central backend. And using the various tools, we can identify whether they're a review leader or amongst the review leaders. We can see how long they've been in business for. We can get a very good idea of what their revenues are. We won't know what their margins are because we don't know what their supply chain looks like at that stage. But we can sort of check the boxes that this sort of fits 7 out of the 10 criteria we're looking for. The other 3 we have to verify after we go to LOI. If we like the deal, they will tell us what their earnings are. And basis all of these criteria, we will submit them a letter of intent, which essentially highlights what our due diligence process looks like in detail, as well as the multiple of earnings we're willing to pay. And if we come to an agreement, we'll sign that LOI. We enter into an exclusive due diligence period where we really look under the hood of the business and we verify everything is as the seller portrayed it to be. And if that all goes well, we close deals in about 30 days after going into LOI.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a quick turnaround. Is that typical for a business like you guys, or like a business in this kind of acquisition, for that kind of speed and transparency?
Well, a lot of people say that's how quickly they close. We actually do close that quickly. Our M&A guys are just amazing. They just really are amazing. So, and again, it's also the experience on Amazon. Like we know they're saying, we know where the bodies are buried, right? So we know upfront these are the 5 things that we can find that are just going to kill the deal, right? So as soon as we go into LOI, so we don't waste anyone's time or whatever, we look and we verify those things. And if something doesn't add up, we're able to bring it to the seller's attention first and say, hey guys, like this is going to be a problem. I'll give you an example. So supply chain disruptions after close is a major problem because you're paying a multiple for a deal. The last thing you want to do is buy the deal and then the first month that you go, you're out of stock of 3 different SKUs, right? So one of the first things we're doing is looking at inventory forecasting. Is there enough inventory to tide us over until we take over the business and we can sort of ensure that the trains are running on time? And if we literally just had this incident with the most recent deal that we just closed, where we identified the supply chain issues. While we were in due diligence, we worked with the seller to actually come up. There was a packaging issue where there was a shortage of packages or whatever. The supplier had run out. And so we went and sourced packaging so that we could close the deal, right? And not have the seller essentially sacrifice anything. So, yeah.
That's a crazy story. Like, that's part of the risk factor, right? That you guys have to do is like, you have to do your due diligence and make sure that your team knows what they're talking about. I guess my other question or my thought is, what's kind of that surprising story? Like you didn't think, you're like, oh, this can be a good idea, but it surpassed all your expectations. Can you tell us a story that might have hit you guys as a business?
And don't
use the brand. Don't use the.
No. I won't. When we're Thrasio size, we'll start.
Start dropping names and products, right?
No, so we acquired a deal in September. It's a home decor product, and it's quite seasonal. So now is their busy season, and we have a robust process, sort of a conveyor belt process. You buy the asset, optimize SEO, optimize PPC, do a little bit of a rebrand, creative, etc. And we knew this was a high quality asset, but we cannot actually believe its performance this month. The business is up 300% since we bought it. So, I mean,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kinds of things, and you just don't know why, or it's just kind of doing its thing. No, you know why.
You know why? I mean, it's a combination of good execution and luck. So, so it's a seasonal product, and it's this year is COVID plus Christmas. So there's
right.
Obviously we're just sort of riding that wave. But there was a lot of low hanging fruit. One of the things, for example, the seller is a leader in the niche. He'd never increased price on the product before. He'd never even tried to see what had happened. So we've bumped price, and units sold remain unchanged, but you're making more revenue because you've increased price. That's one.
Right.
I
was going to say, you're probably doing a lot more market research than the typical, but you have the resources to do it, right? You have the seller plus 50, like those minds that have done the space, they have worked. Hey, did we try this before? Did we do this? Did they, in a typical acquisition?
It's a bandwidth thing, right? Like if you're a single entrepreneur, you are literally doing everything. You are doing inventory forecasting, you're doing creative, you're doing branding, you're doing price adjustments, you're doing PPC. Like no matter how good you are as an operator, like you're not going to be as good as a company that has hired specific experts in each of these domains, and all they're doing all day is thinking how to optimize this piece of the business. So I mean, yeah, that's why all of this money is flowing into the space, because if you can build a company with these department experts. There's a lot of upside to be had. And it's just like awesome for sellers. Like the amount of liquidity in an Amazon business today is insane. I mean, you know, a business that's going up on a brokerage side is getting like 20 offers on it or something. So it's the beautiful thing about the industry is it's just like the ultimate positive sum game, even amongst the aggregators. Like I don't really see many losers here other than, well, just sort of the disruption of, you know, brick and mortar and the old school businesses. But in terms of the e-commerce world, I think it's a rising tide that's lifting all boats.
Right. What's your biggest fear as a COO for the industry you're in? Do you have a big fear that you're like something in the back of your mind, like, I hope that this doesn't
supply chain. It's the reliance on Chinese supply, basically. I mean, you know, tensions between the US and China haven't exactly been great recently. I mean, the election, we'll see what happens with our coming administration, but yeah, I mean, you know, that's probably the biggest sort of uncontrollable risk, but it's uncontrollable. So let's try to focus on things we can control.
Interesting. So do you think that, oops, I'm still here. Hold on one second. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry, James. I don't.
Oh no, now I've lost you.
No, I'm here. Sorry. My video settings is doing a weird something. But my question for you is, so when you have like things like supply chain, you delve in, maybe going back to your background, you guys have more experience into the supply chain, right? You used to have a business, or you worked for a company that was more in logistics and that side of business. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's where I cut my teeth. I was a director at a company called Restaurant Depot. They're the largest supplier of food and supplies to independent restaurants in the United States.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So when you're talking about just like logistics and sourcing from China, does that, you as a company, make you look at like different opportunities? Because we are a global company. Maybe for all of our listeners, if you're listening on LinkedIn, again, a lot of our customers are coming from like China or India or overseas markets. Do you as like a company start looking at different company or countries to source from, like in India or United States or Mexico or wherever? There might be other opportunities.
Yes, I mean, we try, but the Chinese manufacturing base is just incredibly powerful with unbelievable barriers to entry. I was reading an article about this where it's just not easy to replicate what China has built over the last 30 or 40 years. Like, you could get a factory that does what a Chinese factory does in another part of the world, but like there's this sort of virtuous cycle amongst the Chinese manufacturers where they're all sourcing products from each other as well, right? So they have very cheap cost of raw materials just amongst the sort of Chinese suppliers manufacturing base. So that's why we worry about it, because it's not something that can be solved in the short term. But again, look, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an optimistic guy, right? Like
you have to be, right?
That challenges a whole bunch of other countries' opportunities, right? Like India should be looking at building out their manufacturing base. Vietnam, all of these places have an immense opportunity because there's a huge hunger and desire especially amongst the Western democracies, to mitigate that sort of single point of failure risk. I will say as well, we've actually just coincidentally bought a bunch of companies that have local US supply recently. So that's been a nice unintended diversification.
So when you're talking about diversification, sorry, my mind's going, and I'm also checking. The reason I keep looking down, everyone, I'm not ignoring you, James. Our comments is not coming through from LinkedIn. So it's not coming, our comments are not coming through from LinkedIn. So I'm watching myself talk to you to talk to myself on a delay, but there's actually questions that are coming in on LinkedIn. So I want to make sure that everyone knows we're not ignoring you. There are people, James, who are interested, which is good. Recom Brands, like selling businesses. So for everyone, we will let you know who is listening live again on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. There's so many different channels that keep popping up on screens that I want to make sure all the information, if you're watching on one of these platforms or at a later time, we know you can't always join live. Make sure that you put in your comments if you're interested or you want to learn more information. We will make sure we tag James and his team so that can get in touch with you. Don't put anything like super personable, on it, unless you feel comfortable sharing it. Like, your business model, your store brand, or anything like that, put your contact. Yeah, well, your phone number, and that is popping up, but put your contact information in terms of like email. That they will find you, and I think that's the best way to contact you guys. We don't want any spamming or anything like that, which I don't think is an issue, but just to protect everyone's privacy. There's lots of comments on LinkedIn, so that's awesome. Keep those coming through. Lots of people, it looks like, from India are like, hey, we're interested. So maybe that's my next question for you, James, is, are you just working with United States businesses or FBA businesses located in the United States?
No,
selling in the United States?
We're looking globally. I mean, look, I think in terms of the businesses that we buy, in terms of like the marketplaces they're operating at, we're looking in Europe and the United States. In terms of where the actual seller is based, we're actually a global, you can hear I'm South African, right? So we just the nature of doing a startup, you typically, a lot of people end up just hiring within their network. So we actually have employees in the Philippines, Australia, South Africa, Europe, the United States. And so we're not turned off at all by sellers that are based anywhere in the world. It doesn't bother us. Yeah, that's awesome. Where is, maybe in your opinion, where's the growth happening for your Amazon marketplaces, do you think? Is that still the United States? Obviously, I think that's where most of the consumption and focus is on. But where do you think that growth is going to happen here in the next couple of years? Or maybe next year? Let's call it your 2021 prediction. Look, I mean, this is pure speculation on my point. But if I had to guess, I think Europe's got a bit of catching up to do to the United States, and I think it will. So I think that there's a huge opportunity in Europe. I also think that Mexico is a tremendous opportunity. Amazon is pretty strong there. They've got, it's just the economies are so intertwined. And Mexico, I don't know how the economy's been doing lately, but I just think that there's tremendous upside in developing economies. I think the whole world is getting richer and better. So riding that wave in the developed economies is huge. I mean, Mexico's got a massive population. They've already got a very, very big economy. So I would imagine that's gonna be a big force over the next decade or so. Absolutely. I saw a recent article, and maybe we can start just talking in general, maybe your thoughts on e-commerce and where it stands, and then that can transition back to Recom Brands. There was something recently, it was like a year mark. I think I saw it from our friends over at Amazon Experts. They talked about the year mark where Nike left Amazon, right? A huge brand that left Amazon. They ended up growing their e-commerce business on their website like 40x or something crazy. When you're a big brand like a 1P or a brand like Nike, do you see, can you be big enough to not fail and not sell on Amazon? Or do you think that, if you're Nike, of course, but do you think it's just a select few, or do you think that that's a model? Okay. I think it's a select few. I mean, Nike is just, they're one of the best run businesses I've ever seen. We bought and resold Nike, in our reselling business out of their outlet stores. And Nike is just, also from a cultural perspective, they've just got the most coherent distribution strategy from everything from their branding, marketing, as well as just their hardcore operations in terms of distribution strategy and marketing. It's completely consistent. We never saw that with outside of any other brand. So like, I'll give you an example. Nike's strategy is, if you want to buy a cheap Nike product, you buy it from Nike. We will ensure that the only way, the cheapest way you buy it is from Nike. So you'll find a lot of Nike products on Amazon, and the reason for that is that those are people firstly, it's very hard to buy gray market Nike stuff. They make it almost impossible to do it. They've got tight control over their distribution, and so they've got tight control over their brand, tight control over their pricing. So if you want to buy a Nike product that's cheapest, you go into a Nike outlet store and you'll find amazing deals, and that's why there's this good opportunity to flip that product on Amazon. And what Nike's doing is smart. It's like they're saying, cool, we don't mind if the product gets sold on Amazon because of that you have to buy it from us first. Right. Outlet stores, like it's not going to dilute the brand, because you're going to be buying Nike outlet product at a premium of like 50 or 70% on Amazon, right? And they've got the brand cachet that people want Nike, so they don't care if it's not on Amazon. If they don't find the Nike product on Amazon, they'll just go to Nike. I think, of course, there's also it may actually be a too simplistic analysis, because if you're a very high-end brand like an Hermes or a Louis Vuitton or whatever, they carry the same kind of cachet, but they don't operate on the same scale as Nike does. So if you're a very high-end brand appealing to the sort of top income demographics, and there's a sort of elitism or premium related to your brand, like, yes, you don't have to be on Amazon because people will come and buy that for status or whatever. But if you're a sort of run-of-the-mill brand, I wouldn't say run-of-the-mill, but like a sort of more mass market brand, whether it's food or pet supplies or whatever it is, like, you can't not be on Amazon. And the advice, I think, to especially older companies is everyone should be moving towards developing direct-to-consumer skill sets. Like, yes, there's a wholesale element to it if you're selling it through brick and mortar because you're really segmenting your customer base. But online, they should not be selling direct to Amazon 1p. They should be managing their business themselves and taking control over it. And Amazon, Amazon gets a bad reputation. Like, they are protecting brands. They are putting all sorts of tools and methodologies in place that if you're selling 3P, you have a lot of control over what Amazon can and can't do with your product.
Right. What's kind of the most exciting thing about building a brand on Amazon? We've had people on here before that said, hey, building a brand is super important because that's where diversification can happen. That's where people recognize you. We've had Amy Weiss on here from Amazing at Home on here earlier this week. She was like, hey, building a brand recognition is super important because if you diversify and start selling your product like in Walmart stores, you start getting equity, and that's where people start recognizing you. Like a company like yourself will start recognizing you.
Just in terms of diversification?
Yeah. So I guess like maybe like hammer home why it's so important to not just build a great product, but build a brand that's recognizable and keep that consistent throughout your entire process, both marketing, packaging, everything like that. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Recurring revenue. If you're a commodity product and you're not front of mind for your consumer, they'll buy that. You may get one sale, but that may be the only sale, and it's this virtuous cycle, right? So if you're a brand and you've got front of mind, that you can spend a lot more upfront to acquire a customer, right? So you can lose money on your first one or two sales because on average, once you've got somebody, they keep coming back because you built that brand affinity for them. You can just spend so much more than your competitors can up front. I mean, that's one of many reasons.
Right.
You can also then leverage the brand equity you've built into diversified product lines, right? So you may have started selling pencils, right? That you've built this crazy raving fan following, so you know that, like, cool, I can now launch pens to those same customers, and I know I'm going to acquire them very quickly.
Do you find that sellers can get emotionally invested when they sell almost too emotionally invested when they sell a business, like to a company like you guys?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, listen, we're emotional creatures, right? So
right.
We all get emotionally invested, and I think that it's like everything in life, it's a balance, right? You want to be emotionally invested because that's what's going to give you the fire in your belly to make it successful. But you don't want to be too emotionally invested because that'll squash rationality, right? When it comes to just making practical, rational business decisions, right? We had an incident with a deal that didn't work out with us, where a seller was doing tremendously well before COVID. I mean, he had just built this incredible business, and he had a number in his mind of what he was willing to sell the business for. $4 million. That's it. I'm only selling it for $4 million, right? And so,
is there a reason that number like stuck in his head?
No idea.
Just came up with a number.
So that was I mean, and I think originally it was based on the business's performance, because pre-COVID the business was worth $4 million, right? But when your earnings have gone down 67%, and in this case, it's not just a temporary thing, because I think it's a product that sort of is related to going to the office and stuff. So that's a structural change, right? It's not just like, oh, my sales dipped COVID, but COVID's over, the sales are going to, and then we can justify sort of paying this multiple. It didn't work that way. There was a very strong, and there's just no deal to be had. So
you're talking about, because just psychology and what everyone's going to be doing after COVID, right? You're talking about like there might not be this use for this product even after a pandemic.
There'll still be a use for it. It just won't.
Right.
There's just nothing in the data to suggest that this is going to ping right back up, because it was a product that again had to do with people going to an office, right? So people will go back to offices after COVID, right? But a lot less. And therefore, business is likely going to go down a lot more. And so you have to readjust. And it's tough. Look, I understand it. It's a bitter pill to swallow. Right. But that's where the emotions and the rationality have to.
What's interesting about this is that you guys have to look at it from a consumer perspective, but also as a sellability perspective. Like you have to say, what's a consumer going to be interested in now and then 3 to 4 years from now? And like, it's almost like forecasting, right? You have to like actually predict, like numbers look good now, but for stuff with cars, like if you look at just trends in general, like what went down when people stopped going into work, like usage of, going out to eat, like actual practical, like going to different places and like events and whatnot. So if your product is tied to those kinds of things, that's difficult to say like, oh yeah, they'll just bounce right back up to a normal, forecasted model. What is, on the flip side, what's been a category that you think has been like just crazy booming right now that has like a lot of people talking, that a lot of people just can't get their hands on enough of?
Fitness equipment.
Yeah.
That's one. There's quite a few, but like we've looked at a bunch of businesses that space. Again, it's difficult because there is this big COVID kick, right? In terms of the increase in sales. So you'll be paying a premium, but like we think structurally as well. So firstly, gyms are closed or were closed, right? So obviously people are now buying fitness equipment like crazy, but there's also this sort of habitual change that happens, right? If a person has now gone out and kitted out their home with everything they need and they're happy with the fitness equipment they have at home, it's unlikely they're going to go back to the gym, right? So it'll that category. And listen, this is just our view,
right?
That category will likely decline, of course, when fitness places open up again. But we do think that there'll be a structural higher demand for at-home fitness equipment. And listen, I mean, there's that trend anyway with the Pelotons of the world and the Mirrors of the world and stuff. So yeah,
right. They're super attractive, but yeah, I think it was funny. My wife was like, I don't want to maybe look at myself in the mirror, but like have to stare at myself when working out at home. And I'm on the other hand, I'm like, well, if you go to a gym, like you're constantly doing that anyways, because like you're seeing if you do it right. But it's almost like, it's not a vanity thing, but I just think it's funny that those products kind of still exist. And and even like,
the other reason we like it from a structural perspective is it's eliminating friction is always a good way to build a business, right? So it's far less effort. It's far less effort to walk downstairs. I live in a 600 square foot apartment, so I ain't working out at home much. But well, I mean, I am, but it's been very challenging. Trust me, I was very happy when the gyms opened up again. But
thanks, New York.
It's just easier, right? It's just easier if you've got your stuff downstairs, and you're more likely to use it than going out in the winter and having to drive to the gym.
Yeah, I agree. What is one category you will not invest in? Or product? If you want to get like super, like we won't touch it.
I mean, off the top of it, like just anything super controversial, right? Like anything that would have the risk of a shutdown because of policy or regulations on Amazon.
So anything like consumables or like health and wellness, like I'm talking about like nutritional supplements or anything like that.
No, I mean we're even happy as long as we can do the appropriate research and wrap our heads around the compliance. We'll look at it, but like, yeah, I mean. Frankly, we're pretty open to
nothing is off the table.
Nothing is off the table as long as we can understand the risk. As long as we can wrap our heads around the risk and mitigate it accordingly, we're happy to look at the product.
Awesome. We're coming up on the top of the hour. I'm gonna fire off a couple. Isn't that crazy? Is it like this talk? I always tell people, I'm like, maybe like 35 minutes or so. Nope, always goes close to an hour. I always like make that time frame known. Again, everyone who's listening online, if you have quick questions, go ahead and submit those. I'm watching closely on LinkedIn and make sure anyone else is submitting their questions. But on Facebook or YouTube, if you watch this later or listen to this over the weekend, make sure you tag Recom Brands and LinkedIn. That's where you guys are located mostly, right? On social media, just LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, our well as recombrands.com. It's getting a revamp, so please, everybody, don't judge us.
Hey, it's a constant process. I think in PingPong, we redid our homepage, and my marketing team will kill me for every time we say this. I think we redid our homepage 3 times this year, which is not a bad thing. We're just constantly want to make sure everyone's up-to-date information, can constantly know like what we're doing. But yeah, we've been working on it. I know you guys are working on it too. Firing off a couple questions, this or that. Would you rather would you as a consumer purchase a product for free shipping or getting a discount? You get either one.
Me personally?
Yep.
So, I mean, I understand how pricing works. So the free shipping thing is a bit of a misnomer, right? Because if you're offering free shipping, you're just increasing your price. So it's a perception of free shipping. So me personally, I'll try to work out the economics of it and just make them.
Would you rather? Maybe I'll just like say one or the other. Facebook and Instagram, or LinkedIn for building a brand.
So, one of the things I know is what I'm not good at, and branding and marketing is not one of my strong suits. But my initial reaction is Facebook and Instagram seem very noisy now, and LinkedIn, I think there's still a lot of white space there. From a paid advertising perspective, I think it's a lot more cost effective.
Do you see that there's a little bit more like more like a consumable marketplace? You're saying
about that? I mean,
just more marketing, building a brand.
Our marketing at the moment, the sort of the consumer marketing is we're very focused on Amazon for now, and we'll definitely be ramping up our social on Facebook and Instagram. Although it will be interesting to experiment in selling to consumers on LinkedIn. I mean, people are businesses there, but like they're still consumers, right? So that's probably very interesting. But like I was looking at it through the lens of our business from our branding and marketing perspective. It's a B2B branding and marketing thing, right? We're going to be talking to business owners, and so LinkedIn is going to be the most effective channel for that.
Sure. Would you rather get your information from a podcast, or would you rather read a blog?
Well, I'm a big podcast guy. I like. Good answer. This is like a big passion of mine. I absolutely love what's happening in the podcasting world, like long form discussions like this, and the Joe Rogans of the world and stuff. It's just amazing. The world is a super complicated, nuanced place. And so if you've got the time, like it's cool to listen to a long form podcast so you can actually understand the issues and the complexities instead of just like sound bites and clickbait kind of thing.
Great. Would you, let's think about this real quick. Are you a prepare and buy all your gifts before Thanksgiving for Christmas, or are you a last minute holiday shopper?
Well, I'm Jewish. So
well, happy Hanukkah. Obviously, Hanukkah started yesterday. So for when
I'm a last minute guy.
Are you still shopping online?
I'm a thank God for Amazon one day delivery kind of guy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'm the same way. I buy some stuff in advance. I'm like, there will be deals, I promise. Like, just wait for them. And my mother-in-law, who's actually the opposite, she has all of her Christmas gifts done in July. Like, yeah, I cannot wrap my head around it, and it always boggles my mind.
My wife is the reason I still have friends, because she's she's always thinking about other people and planning for them and whatever. So yeah, thank God.
Would you rather receive a handwritten note, or would you rather receive like a gift card or a thank you gift?
Handwritten notes, 100%. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely not a materialist. Thoughtfulness goes a much longer way.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna kind of cap it off there. What I guess one more thing. What's the thing that on your wish list for 2021? What do you want to see in the Amazon world? Do you have any predictions, kind of projections, or what's kind of your forecasting for this new year, which everyone is so excited for?
I'm just looking forward to honestly building deeper relationships with the sellers that please God, we buy their businesses on. I think that no one, as much as these are Amazon businesses and they can sort of be thought to be standardized, they are unique, and everybody's got their own unique experience. And As we scale up and buy more and more businesses, I'm looking really forward to just developing deeper and more meaningful relationships with the people whose businesses we buy.
That's awesome. I think that's a good place to kind of cap off our talk today. Again, everyone, James Stein from Recom Brands, him and his team are there. They're looking for businesses to not just invest in, but obviously acquire and help grow those businesses to take them to the next level. James, what's kind of the quick way that people can get in touch with you and your team? One more time for the people.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, look, anyone can email me directly, James at Recom Brands. Our head of M&A is Jeremy at Recom Brands. You can visit us on our website, and you can find us on LinkedIn. Ryan, I just want to thank you so much, man. Like, this is the first live anything I've ever done. This was like really awesome, and you made it really easy, and I really just appreciate you having us on. It was wonderful getting to know you.
100%. And now that you're a friend of the show, I tell everyone as we cap off our podcast, friends of the show are always welcome back. Like, it's an open door policy. If you guys have anything that you see that is worth sharing with people, we're here to like share it with our audience as well. And now, again, everyone, for James and his team, go to recombrands.com, check them out on LinkedIn. They're always posting really great content. I'm learning a lot from their team just by following them for the short time that we've been, I've personally been aware of them, but we are going to cap off today. Again, download these episodes. You can go to any podcast, format, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, download this audio form. We're going to be releasing a bunch at a time because we've just been pumping out so much content. Again, we're on 27, and I think our podcasts are catching up. On the audio format, it's like 6. So we got a lot to release in audio form. If you missed something this year, it doesn't just apply to that time frame. It applies to all of building your e-commerce. And James, thanks so much. Again, for future episodes, guys, we're going live 3 more times next week, and we're capping off our season at episode 30. We're talking about, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of everything. We're talking about sourcing from India, which is going to be great. We're talking about sourcing and building and going through different kinds of inspections in China, manufacturing. So that's going to be awesome with Movely. So I'm super excited about that. And then we're capping off with PPC Ninja and Ritu from that company. We're talking about the Japanese marketplace. So we got a lot of international talks next week that we're going to be hitting up. So definitely tune in for that. Again, James, thank you so much. I'm Ryan Kramer with PingPong Payments. I'm the host of the show, Crossover Commerce. Thanks again for joining us. If you have questions, reach out on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks a lot, everyone.